What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data Dash, and today is February 13th of 2020. Well, folks, I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are. And in today's video, we've got a wide range of topics to discuss, from taking a look over the continued bullish trend in cryptocurrency markets, as well as taking a very unique approach to analyzing one of our key metrics, which is Bitcoin dominance. And then outside of that, we'll also be talking about future developments with the coronavirus as the numbers have recently spiked. But let's go ahead and start off by diving in through cryptocurrency markets. So taking a look over the last 24 hours, we can see there's still a plethora of players who are not only in the green, but also some of which are in double-digit territory, with a few plays as well. As Bitcoin has started to kind of stagnate over the last 24 hours, we've seen some players come back, taking a little bit of a pullback, as we tend to find with most of these rallies. It tends to be with altcoin cycles that we see a lot of players do double-digit or triple-digit gains, where they can simply double their value overnight, and then it tends to be that, of course, there's going to be a correction of some sort of small pullback, usually what would be seen as like a bull flag. And during that time when liquidity is being pulled out of those plays, which is why we're seeing a decline in price, you tend to see other plays starting to lead. And you've got things like Chili's, Centrality, Theta, another one of my plays that almost made the top 10 this year. I know there's some of you who are big Theta fans. But you can see here as well some of the large cap plays as well. XRP up 12%, Ethereum up 7.3%, Hybrid Network, one of our plays, up 6.8%, Cardano up 6% as well. So NEO as well up 5%. So a lot of good plays here across the board, doing well. And again, some of them doing very, very well here in the sense of, making double-digit gains in a single day, after already doing well, as you can see from the 7-day chart here. Now, I want to go ahead and talk about a few things here. I want to go ahead and analyze Bitcoin's price and talk a little bit about what's the general kind of target range I'm looking for before we really enter into a correction, and also what are the other key price levels that I'm looking at. But outside of that, we'll also be diving into Bitcoin dominance and be taking a unique perspective on it. So let's just go ahead and start off with Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin has obviously been on a solid tear here in the sense of its price, and in the sense of analyzing when we're going to see a correction, there's really two things I'm watching for. My target range here before we get a correction on Bitcoin is 12,000, because if we generally take a look at the kind of general trend here for this uptrend, it points right up here to the top of the wedge here that lines up between the previous highs of Bitcoin back in December of 2017 and here in June 26th of 2019. So if you draw a general line amongst these two, the next big even level it's going to take you to is $12,000. And that is just in line here with the absolute trend of the general uptrend that we've had in Bitcoin. Another way that we can also look for when I would probably turn bearish on Bitcoin is taking a look at the line of support here. So we can see pretty consistently that price is getting buyers more and more as we distance ourselves away from this uptrend line, which means the buyers are getting more eager, right? So long as this price holds above this line and doesn't falter below it, which would signal that people are turning bearish or buyers aren't buying at higher levels and more anticipation for a higher price, then that's another sign you can look for. But I think quite confidently, guys, I understand it's very rational to say, hey, with this kind of rally, it might be good to take some profits, especially on altcoins, at least in the short term, if you're more of an active trader. But if you're playing for the broader cycle, guys, like myself, I'm not trading right now. And in fact, the only place I would consider maybe taking some profits on my altcoins or maybe cycling to different plays would be up here around 12,000. And the reason for that is because right now the trend is strong. Volume is on our side in this case. Buyers are buying in at an already high rate here with this line of support, but they're buying in at higher levels here. They're not buying it before it even touches the line. So this showcases a sense of eagerness, kind of FOMO that's coming into the market. And this is again what we talked about. A lot of the people who on the institutional side of crypto, I would say the larger traders who were waiting for 5 or 4K for Bitcoin's price down here are now starting to enter in up here, and they're providing the buy side pressure for prices to move higher. Now, what are the other price levels we're looking for? We're talking about a potential correction at 12,000. How would it look like, if we just take it to the weekly here in the longer term time frame? What other key levels are we watching for? Well, I'll go ahead and emphasize it. It's obviously going to be 14K and 20K in my opinion, and I'll explain why. Previous high here, right? That's going to be a very important level to get through. And if we do get through there, that's going to provide enough FOMO in this case, getting above the previous highs here to get to the all-time highs at 20,000, or at least to retest it. So this is how I would generally see it playing out. Again, I don't have a magic wand, guys. This is, again, a very brief overview of what I think could happen over the course of the next coming months. But let's go ahead and take a look on the weekly chart, and I'll draw with a polyline tool. This is a tool you can use on the TradingView chart system, where we basically, over the next coming weeks, we come back up here to 12,000. We hit some resistance, pull back a little bit, probably down to around 10,000, another big even. And then we eventually break through the wedge, breaking through 14K. And we're going to want to make that support, right? So after that, we start ticking upward, start setting up higher lows and higher highs. And eventually, sometime in late 2020 or 2021, we get above the previous all-time highs that were set back in December of 2017. Now, again, I would probably say this is, again, a rough drawing here, but I would say anytime between late 2020 to early 2021, that's when we're going to get this break above here in December of 2017, right, to break past 20K. So that's my general time frame. Again, you guys might have a different time frame, and I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. But if you kind of see this time horizon as well, guys, always appreciate if you could drop a like. And one thing I just want to mention as well, because we've got a lot of people getting interested again in crypto markets. Guys, if you haven't, hit the bell icon as well to make sure you don't miss a video. YouTube's subscription system is a little bit wonky. It doesn't always notify you. So if you hit the bell icon at the bottom right of the video, you'll be able to get a notification as well. And if you haven't subscribed, I definitely would recommend you consider it. Okay, so we've talked about that in the sense of Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Bitcoin dominance. Now, we obviously take a look at this a lot, guys, on the channel if you're a frequent viewer. And again, since August and September, we've been calling for this decline here, this trend reversal after a very long bull market for Bitcoin in this case, or I would say a market where Bitcoin was the better play here. And you tend to find during bearish times in the market, Bitcoin dominance rises. Now, why is that? Well, it's because people are taking less risk, and therefore they're usually selling off positions in altcoins. So altcoins sell off even faster than Bitcoin in this case. So even though Bitcoin dominance is rising, during this time period from back here in January to this period here in September, Bitcoin was on the decline, but it was selling off less than altcoins. So when we see a shift here, or we see ourselves testing towards a key level of previous resistance and Bitcoin dominance, and we start to see a turnover, this means that risk-taking is rising. It means that Bitcoin is not only likely increasing itself, but that altcoins are rising at a faster pace. Now, I want to go ahead and talk, my chart's on the logarithmic chart, so this is the actual kind of line of support that I watch for. Some people as well have a different line where they view it this way and they see that we've already broken the line. You know, either way, you can have different perspectives on it. But the major thing I want to take a look at here is a different perspective on Bitcoin dominance. And it's really in a perspective, as we talked about actually a couple of episodes ago, about looking at it in an inverse chart, okay? So there's a really cool tool you can use here on TradingView. If you click this little gear icon down here, and you click on, or you can type Alt-I if you want for a shortcut. We can do that with our keyboard, or you can just simply click Invert Scale. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to flip our chart here to make it where we actually get a chart here, in a sense, if you ignore the numeric value, because it's still representing Bitcoin dominance. And we'll talk about two things to note in this chart. But in a sense, it gives us a chart of altcoin dominance over time. So we can take a look back here in February of 2017 when we had really the first altcoin cycle, how it started to see a kickoff where altcoins started to gain serious dominance in the market. Now, there are two things to note when looking at this chart before we dive any further. First off, again, ignore the numeric value because that is Bitcoin dominance. It's not altcoin dominance. I wish it would switch it, but that's just not how the inverted chart works. It's just flipping the price action or the gains or losses of the index of Bitcoin dominance. So as this rises, though, this is a sign of altcoins gaining dominance. And you can see the number declining here for what is actually Bitcoin dominance. This number is 63%, means that Bitcoin currently owns 63% of the market share or total valuation of the cryptocurrency market. The further this goes up, the higher our altcoins are going on a general basis, right? So, and again, what's cool here is that it basically flips our drawings here too, in the same exact area where they should be. But another thing to note is that your indicators are not going to look normal because we're looking still at Bitcoin dominance on an inverted chart. So if we have 0 to 5 points here like we do on the SMS indicator, one of our conglomerate indicators here on the channel that take into account the squeeze momentum indicator, the stochastic RSI, and the MACD, in this case, if we have 0 to 5 points, this is actually bullish for altcoins in this case. It means that Bitcoin dominance is really declining as we're taking a look at an inverted chart. And in this case, it's a good period of time here for altcoins. Altcoins are showcasing momentum, and we have not seen a reversal on that trend yet. So anyways, just wanted to share this with you guys, taking off all the drawings off the chart and getting rid of our indicators here for just a moment. This paints a very clear picture. Imagine, and ignore the numeric values here, think about this like a stock, right? if you know any of the principles, I know many of you guys are recurring viewers to the channel and stuff, but some of you might be new as well. One of the principles that I always like to drive home is that I don't like to use a massive amount of indicators. I don't like to overcomplicate things. I like to look at broad, longer term cycles. And I also like to look for support and resistance. I consider myself a naked trader, which is someone who doesn't use, I'm wearing clothes, as you can probably see, but I don't like to use too much excess analysis of markets, and I simply look for price levels or key significant levels of support and resistance. If we take a look back at the last really significant low we had here back in September for altcoin dominance, we can see here that this was a very consistent range. It's where we were at back before we shot up here for the second altcoin cycle. And along with that as well, it's where we came back for a pullback back here between May to July of 2017 after we had our first altcoin cycle, right? So this was a very significant level here around the 72% mark. And with the setting of a higher low here, again, as we talked about with Bitcoin earlier, the more and more something sets a higher low and higher highs, this signals a reversal in trend because it showcases that people are willing to buy at a basically higher level from the previous low, and they're also willing to pay a higher premium from the previous point of resistance or the previous high, right? So that's the key kind of general gist here. If you see higher lows and higher highs, we've got a clear trend reversal. And I think it's become obvious by now for those of you who have been listening and watching in the space that this is happening right now. But it's wonderful to see here because, again, we talked about this for a long time. We look for these trend shifts, and we didn't find it looking at the 1 minute chart. We didn't find it looking at the hourly chart of a specific cryptocurrency. We looked at the broader market indexes, and we have longer time frame horizons, which makes it very, very easy to actually win out in the long term versus trying to trade on the short term. It's the reason why the majority of people will lose trading. So my biggest point here in all of this, guys, after analyzing this, before we take a look at some individual cryptocurrencies, is to not excessively trade. Have a good sense. Again, I can't tell you guys what to do, but if you want my take on it, I have a good sense of diversity across a variety of altcoins. And until this trend shifts, until we start to see this starting to pull back and show a decline in momentum, I'm going to hold those positions. I'm not going to try to time the absolute top or the absolute bottom, but I'm going to try to generally ride the wave. We don't get many opportunities like this. It's been years since we had an opportunity where altcoins are gaining. So in that case, I'm going to take upon this opportunity. And not to mention, there are a lot of fundamental, awesome plays coming out of the DeFi movement, as well as some other protocols out there that are finally coming out of kind of the shadows and finally revealing what they've been building. So another thing to take into mind here, as we did with Bitcoin, what are some levels that I'm watching out for? Well, one level that's very apparent to me is right here at 52 points. So we've got a ways to go to get to 52 points in Bitcoin dominance here, which would mean that altcoins still have a ways to go. Another one as well is the line of resistance here for what we would usually look at as the line of support for Bitcoin dominance, right? So again, watching this line here to see whether or not we get a pullback will be very important. If we can get above here, rest on this as support, and then break out higher, I think 52 is very likely the next target after we've come down here. So again, another continuation of the point drop here. And not to mention, this is where we kind of finalized the overall first cycle here before we started the second one for altcoins, right? So again, little pattern here to just keep in mind. We might hopefully have a break it above here, come down here, make it support, and then come back to test this level, probably hit this a few times like we did in the past. And then later down the line, I'd probably give it some time here, would eventually break out here sometime. And I'd say probably, again, your time frame is going to be much larger in this case because we're going into 2021. So just to, again, bear in mind, that's the general pattern here. I think these are going to be the significant levels to watch, but on a much longer term time frame than probably what I just drew there, okay? All right, so let's go ahead real quick. We'll take a look at a few individual altcoins. Kyber Network having its official breakout here. Oh, this is the funny thing you have to keep in mind. You have to turn off the inverted scale. So it's going to keep that on your chart. But anyways, sorry about that, guys. One thing to note here, if we take a look at the weekly, we can obviously see we've broken out of the ascending triangle. This is a very bullish pattern here, and the breakout is coming quite strong, a little bit earlier than I had expected here on the chart, but nonetheless, playing into the technical pattern that we were looking at for a course of a couple of months, and we finally have gotten it here. We've gotten a breakout after months of having higher lows and a consistent resistance range that's now finally broken. I think Kyber Network is going to keep running. This is a small cap play, and we can see in the past, if we take a look at Kyber's price here, right? Kyber compared to Bitcoin has been at much higher levels in the past. So we're at 4,000 Satoshis, for example. One of the previous highs over here, generally where it opened up, was around 40,000 Satoshis. Nearly 10 times higher compared to Bitcoin. And I think that in this case, Kyber's got a lot of room to grow. It won't happen overnight, but it's got a lot of room to grow to probably regain most of these levels, because Kyber Network is going to serve as the base liquidity layer for DeFi in many ways. So all of the decentralized exchanges that are starting to get user adoption and are starting to actually get volume is definitely going to be beneficial for Kyber Network. In fact, they actually just reached last night, Kyber Network hit a record of $10 million in volume on a 24-hour basis. That's not a crazy amount compared to like centralized exchanges like Coinbase that do hundreds of millions of dollars in volume during these periods of time. But it's a sign that everything's working. The DEXs as well in many cases are providing lower fees, and they provide a wider range to cryptocurrencies. And the cool thing is it's decentralized, it's relatively trustless, and the thing is you're able to trade directly from your wallet in this case, or other types of wallet-based solutions, which is huge. It's a game changer. Not having to rely on the custody of Coinbase or a centralized entity is massive in the long term for any kind of third-party risk in this case, right? So anyways, just wanted to put that into perspective. Another thing as well, talking about outside of plays that really we're bullish on, is XRP. XRP finally picking up some momentum. It's fading a little bit of its gains here, but nonetheless, again, setting the higher lows here than it did back here in August. And we actually had, we're taking a look at the Poloniex pair. If you actually take a look at the BTC pair on Binance, we've had the highest day of volume since back in June. So this is really exciting to see. Over 235 million XRP traded, and the last time we had this high here was back here in June of June 27th of 2019. So very important to take into mind here. I want to see one more day of continuation. In fact, I'd like to see a breakout above this level of 3,700 sats. If it can do that, I'd definitely consider, at least for myself, a personal trade in the short term. But I don't really have any plans to hold XRP long term, because if you take a look at the chart, guys, all right, we'll take a look at the Poloniex chart again. You guys know the momentum for XRP is in a very short period of time, if history has taught us anything. So who knows, might be different this time around. One last thing as well, again, for one of the safer plays that I always like to bring up here, Litecoin. Turn on our drawings here. Again, we've got the Litecoin to Bitcoin ratio here. I want to go ahead and shrink the chart a little, or expand the chart a little bit. We can see here, right, we've got our general range here, where's the general entry zone for me and exit zone. I have not entered into any specific positions on Litecoin, but I will say here that, again, this is a nice, safe trade here in order to increase the Bitcoin comparative ratio, at least according to history, right, that we usually get a 3x from this range. And again, there's some anomalies where we get a little bit higher, sometimes a little bit lower. So that's the general range I look for. Just wanted to share this with you guys. Very simple way to analyze markets. Notice how I didn't use any technical indicators. Notice how I didn't overcomplicate the chart and, put all crazy types of rainbow diagrams and things that overanalyze, and the Fibonacci retracement and all these things. Fibonacci and all those tools can be great, but sometimes it's as simple as looking at where do buyers usually come in and where do buyers usually get out of their positions, right? So that's a very, very important thing to take into mind, guys. Keep analysis, whether it be technical analysis, data science, fundamental analysis, keep it simple, keep it broad, keep it on a longer term time frame, okay? So that's my only advice I can give you guys. All right, so we've talked about crypto markets enough today, guys. Rammed on enough about that. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what's been going on with the coronavirus. So we've been talking about this, and again, we've tried to keep a very rational view about it, guys. But I will say, to the skeptics in this case, I would say, who believe that China has been underreporting the numbers, and I'm kind of in that camp as well to a degree. I just don't think it's to the severity that some people are stating. China has actually come out, and after a new reevaluation of their testing procedure for the coronavirus, have actually come to the conclusion that the numbers are a bit decent higher. So overnight, we went from around 44,700 cases, now upwards towards 59, if not 60,000 cases in this case. And the good, well, I don't want to say it's good news here, and I'll explain why I reference it as slightly positive news. The slightly positive news is that the growth in the numbers are in China, okay? Well, that's not to say that I don't feel for Chinese citizens. This is terrible to see that there's over 1,300 deaths here. I'm happy to see that the recovered number is starting to heavily outweigh on a ratio basis against the total deaths. But I will say, I feel for the Chinese citizens. This has been a terrible outbreak in this case, and it's something that I wish and I hope gets resolved as soon as possible. But the reason I say that this is a decent piece of news here, that this is the larger kind of numbers, and to notice on a geographical basis that it's mainly in China, is because we're not seeing it spread globally to the degree that I was expecting originally, right? For example, Hong Kong being one of the closest geographical places here, right? Only 51 cases. Now, of course, the number's probably higher, and it's going to probably continue to grow. But compared to the disparity here, where you have 1,000x in China, more than 1,000x, compared to what you have in Hong Kong, then to me, that makes me have a sense of confidence that the containment procedure is going quite well, right? So, for example, the U.S. I think is a shining example, right? I'm not just saying that because I'm in the U.S. myself and thinking in my own self-interest. I'm just saying, in the sense of the U.S. here, we're not seeing the numbers climb that much. It's on a 2 or 3 day basis that we add a new case. And it's because through the procedures that airports are taking, that any kind of international travel or international shipping of exports and imports, we're going through a lot of steps and procedures to make sure that this doesn't spread to other countries. And that's the number one goal here, to make sure that this isn't a global pandemic, right? And then after that, if we can guarantee that, it's the next steps we can take to help China suppress this, right? At the end of the day, guys, putting aside all geopolitical tensions and stuff, we don't want this spreading. We want to help one another in this scenario. This is something that no one wants. No one wants to see the death numbers count. We don't want to see more people infected with this. We want to try to work together in some way. And it seems like a lot of the world government organizations, on the federal branches to a lot of nonprofit organizations, are working towards trying to combat this issue, as well as a lot of the universities. So it's good to see this. It's really good to see this. Now we can see markets reacting a little bit to the sudden spike last night. We can see here across the board here, not only Chinese stocks down nearly a percentage point from the China A50 to the China H shares here for a lot of, and also as well the Hang Seng Index, which is a lot of Hong Kong stocks. But we can also see U.S. indices down nearly about a percentage point. And honestly, again, guys, I wouldn't expect them to drop much more severely. This was kind of expected. We knew that the numbers were probably going to be a little bit higher with the virality of this virus. But with luckily the increase here on the total recovered, this is a really good sign to see. So I'm keeping a very moderate view here, guys. I don't think this is really a big concern until it starts to spread globally. And it seems like China, though, again, I think their measures could be seen as good or sometimes a little bit overbearing. In this case, China's taking a lot of procedures to try to suppress this at all costs. So again, I think everyone can have different opinions on it, but it seems like at least this isn't the kind of exponential growth we thought that we were going to see, where on a daily basis it could be compounding. Going on here, though, to talk a little bit about, again, this is the main reason here that futures are dropping. I want to go ahead and dive a little bit deeper here. They've recently named the coronavirus as well as COVID-19. This is the COVID-19 infection. This is the official name. And in this case, again, we're seeing a wide variety of different approaches here from world governments to suppress it. So again, I was actually going to dive through this article. I think I'll probably just skip it, guys, because I kind of rambled on about all the things I wanted to talk about in the article. But one of the things as well, guys, we're positioned here in cryptocurrency markets where we're seeing a lot of excitement coming into the space. I think not only in the sense of speculation here, but also as Bitcoin rises, as a growth, as a hedge in this case. Again, a lot of you might be getting involved in cryptocurrency markets for your first time or something, or you might just want a simple way to get a little bit of exposure. One of the ways that we're doing that through the cryptocurrency space is through eToro, and this is again one of our sponsors here on the channel. But what's really cool is they have a copy trader feature, so you guys are actually able to copy a wide variety of traders here on the platform, including myself. So far, since I entered in, and I entered in at a pretty bad time when we were in the middle of the correction in the last cycle, I'm actually still up 37% here. And you can see not only my current month-to-month stats, you can see my portfolio holdings, and you can also see a chart of that performance. This is what I was demonstrating earlier. We've come back pretty strong here. I held to those positions on my altcoins, and it's paid off quite well. Now, bear in mind, again, just want to make it clear, eToro is not the only platform I trade on, but it's a good platform if you guys want to utilize the copy trader feature and copy me in trading a variety of different cryptocurrencies, right? Some of the big plays here like Ethereum, NEO, and Litecoin. So if you're not looking to get into a lot of the small cap plays and you're a US trader who's interested in just kind of getting your feet wet in crypto, this is a good way to do it. And there's usually a blue copy trader button that you can click on and copy me real time and trade exactly alongside me at the same price. So again, interesting thing to check out if you guys are interested in that. But That's it for the video today, guys. I've rambled on enough. If you can't tell, I'm nearly out of breath, but that's how I like it to be here, guys, because I love talking to you guys. I love getting out as much info as I can as possible, as quick as I can as possible. And if you guys like this video, again, please drop a like. If you want to support the channel in any way, there's a ton of links down below, referral links, things of that sort, where you guys can support me. And also, the biggest thing I could ask for is that if you like my content and you're interested in figuring out more about what I'm doing, I'm working on my startup. It's going to be, my target date for release is going to be in late March, so sign up for bankingfor the21stcentury.com. There's a link to it in the description, and fill out the email form. I'm not going to spam you guys. I just want to let you all know when my startup launches. I'm real excited to get it out there to you guys. I've been self-funding it and getting it going, and I can't wait to show what I've been working on behind the scenes. That being said, though, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.